Hi, and welcome to the Break Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Wood. And today I've managed to capture Christina Inge, who is between sessions at Harvard where she teaches. She's also the founder and CEO of Thoughtlight, which is a tech consulting company specializing in digital marketing and analytics strategies. Welcome, Christina.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. We were talking about analytics and also your book. And you told me that analytics isn't that difficult, which I think a lot of people would disagree with since the launch of Google Analytics 4. It sort of scrambled the marketing world from a measurement point of view. So where do we go from there?
Could explain a little bit more about why is analytics not that difficult? I think analytics is obviously it's a discipline that requires precision, and as you mentioned, it requires the use of tools that change continuously, and we always have to be learning. I think a lot of what makes analytics difficult, though, is it's three things. One is that people are just afraid of and intimidated by math in general. It's a math discipline, and never mind that it's very little more than basic statistics. People just freeze because it's got to do with math. So the first thing is get a good basic book on statistics is what I recommend to people. One that breaks it down. There's a good book called Naked Statistics. It explains it to you in the
Okay.
straightforward way and lose that intimidation around math. The second, actually, you pointed out, Dan, which is we have all of these tools, but they're not under our control, right? They update them all the time. They got rid of universal analytics, and now, we have to deal with GA4, and it takes away all some of our favorite metrics. So then what do? Do we now have to buy a tool instead of using the free one? And we often feel like we're at the mercy of the tool makers and especially of Google. So there's that loss of control. And I think that points to the third reason why people are stressed out by analytics. And that is the flip side of that is the precision of it. So on the one hand, it's the loss of control, but on the other hand, it's the accountability and the responsibility. It's easy. And I say this as a marketer. It's comfortable to sort of swim in the warm ocean of fuzzy numbers like reach, engagements, web traffic. But as I was saying to my students the other day, for instance, in my SEO class, if you are measuring the wrong thing, the numbers can look really pretty in the short term, but in the long term, you're not going to drive results and you're going to end up with bad outcomes. So I think that we don't have to fear accountability because at the end of the day, solid accountability managed the right way with realistic expectations can actually lead to job security because it allows us to actually get better at our jobs. But in the short term, it means we get rid of it's like having a broken scale and you weigh yourself every day and you're like, my BMI is not that bad. And then one day you get a good scale and you're like, I have to stop eating donuts now. And in the short term, that's painful. But in the long term, now you can run a faster mile because you're in better shape. So it is a short term pain, I think, when people start to implement those accountability measures and start measuring what really matters for higher ROI and better results and optimization.
Yeah, wow. I agree with you on that first point, especially when you said people are afraid of math. Often when I'm working with someone in their Google Ads account and I say, these numbers aren't statistically significant yet. It looks like we have a 12% click-through rate, but not really because there's only been 65 impressions.
Yes.
So I usually explain it saying, well, if we flip a coin 3 times and determine that that you'll get heads 2 out of 3 times, that's not the real number. We have to keep flipping the coin. Eventually it's going to approach 50%. But usually there's a eyes glazing over moment there when you say the word statistics. But on the other hand, to your third point, if I don't prove that it's working, then I'm gone. If your marketing isn't getting results, then you have to try something else just for the survival of the business.
Exactly.
Or the survival of the agency. So that's where, especially in advertising, there's a much shorter turnaround and a much more precise measurement on it. But still, I'm in contact with companies big and small that don't have their measurement set up. They don't have conversion tracking set up for Meta ads or LinkedIn or Google. They don't have anyone in-house who really understands Google Analytics, especially the newer GA4. And they're just kind of floating,
Yeah.
just hoping,
Hoping, hoping and floating. Yep.
So where's the best place? I know you've described it at length in your book, but in a nutshell, where do we start with this?
With analytics, I would say start by defining some KPIs that are really essential to your business, whether it's revenue is where a lot of people start, but accountability is great. But you also need to measure your entire funnel. A lot of times people think accountability means it means essentialism. It means if it's not immediately generating money right now, it isn't helpful. I
Right.
don't mean when we talk about accountability that everything has to be essentialist and drive immediate dollars in the door. That's not how life works. That's not how marketing
No.
works. A lot of times the conflict between sales and marketing has to do with the fact that sales doesn't define a lead as anybody. I used to joke, and again, no knock on salespeople, but I would often tease my sales folks when I worked in B2B lead generation saying, you define a lead as someone running in the door waving a check.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's not a lead. That is a customer. I can't deliver you customers. I can deliver you leads. So when I say define KPIs that matter, I don't mean your only KPI should be someone running in your door waving a check right now. In other words, customers. You also want to measure the funnel. And so reach and awareness, fuzzy, warm, non-accountable metrics though they are, do have a role in a metrics program as long as you're measuring your entire funnel and you're not just stopping at that big top of funnel, not very meaningful metrics on their own. But
Hmm.
if you're getting into the discipline of setting KPIs, you maybe want to go somewhere in between revenue and just reach and awareness and maybe say you're measuring marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads. Set KPIs, but set ones where you can show measurable progress. Don't try to immediately track everything back to revenue. But get started by setting KPIs and then figuring out what metrics will help you measure those KPIs. It might be 2 or 3 different metrics that you have to triangulate. So for instance, with MQLs, don't just measure the net number of MQLs, but measure what channels they're coming from and the conversion rate of those MQLs to SQLs, sales qualified leads. Or maybe look at what messaging brought people in or what industry that they're in. That's something to measure as well. But set KPIs, set a variety of metrics that will track those KPIs, and then build from there. Build gradually, get good at some kinds of measurement, whether it's web analytics using universal analytics or looking at conversions in your CRM, in your HubSpot or your Salesforce, your Marketo. But get good at one thing, demonstrate success there, and then expand out from there versus trying to learn every tool, build thousands of dashboards. People just get overwhelmed. And that goes back to point number one. Overwhelm with numbers turns people off from analytics. So gain
Right.
that mastery around a few sets of KPIs and a small tool set.
Okay. So pick a few numbers that really matter,
Hmm.
track those, measure them, and then expand from there.
Correct.
Yeah. That's good. I was speaking to someone in a previous podcast about the different value propositions or different messaging on a landing page. So we're
Yes.
talking about landing page optimization and how if you aren't serving the top of funnel and middle of funnel, then the people at the bottom of the funnel don't know, like, and trust you. They're ready to talk to a salesperson. And if you're only targeting them, if they only discover you at the end of that buying process, then they have no loyalty to you the way they would if they had been learning from you through the whole funnel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're going to become bad customers even if you land them as customers. They may be poorly aligned with what you actually deliver. Um,
Right.
and even if you land them as customers, you might have to cut them a really good deal because they're really just there out of price sensitivity, or they're going to require a lot of customer support. And so I often say it's better to get fewer really tightly qualified leads who are going to be your ideal customer than try to build a broad customer base of customers who ultimately cost you money. And that's something where you
Right.
need long-term metrics to determine who your best customers are, try to build a profile of that using the data, and then go looking for where you can source more of those customers using analytics.
Very good. We talked about CRM systems. You mentioned a few. Are there Does it really matter which one people pick? Don't they all do the same thing now?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, work with a lot of clients, helping them pick the right CRM for them
Okay.
can matter in terms of who's going to be running the CRM. If it's you're in higher education and it's going to be admissions, they may want an admissions dedicated CRM. They all basically do the same thing, but they make it easier for you based on your industry in terms of what's already pre-baked into the CRM versus what you have to build. So going for a CRM that is industry specific. If you're, for instance, I work with a lot of cultural organizations. There are CRMs specifically for the nonprofit sector. There are CRMs specifically for higher education, and they have more baked into it and less customization that you need. If you're in B2B or in B2C, it really depends. If you're doing e-commerce, you need a CRM that's built for e-commerce, which again, any major enterprise CRM can be customized for that. But if you're like, let's say an SMB, there's ones that are at a more attractive price point for you. So, yes, they'll all do the same things, but I would say it is a huge time saver if it does what you need it to do right out of the box with limited customizations required. And it just
Of
becomes
course.
easier for the client to maintain. Other than that, though, if you are just a large enterprise B2B, all of the CRMs, the major ones, your HubSpot, your Marketo, your Salesforce, pretty much will do the same thing. And then it depends on what the capabilities of your team are. Pick the one that is the most familiar to them or where you have a good relationship with your customer support specialists already.
Hmm.
If you're not that differentiated in that sense, but it's a yes and no answer. But I work with a lot of clients and
Right.
pick the one that's going to be easiest for them to set up and maintain.
Yeah, I've worked at a few CRM companies and sales software companies, and if people don't use the tool, it doesn't matter what the tool is. Yeah. And that's always the hardest part is actually getting the team and the process aligned and making salespeople actually use the CRM somehow.
That's where if
Yeah.
it's something familiar to them that they used in a previous job, either they hate it or they love it. So definitely be user centered when you think about your CRM. Make sure that you're thinking of your users and their needs first.
Yeah. Now you're teaching at Harvard. I'm curious to know a little bit about the topics you cover in your program
Oh,
and how that's changed over the last little while with AI coming in and I mean everything. I taught a course in content strategy in 2019 at a university here in Canada, but that was 2019. It was all different than it is now. Not
absolutely.
really. There's a lot of new buzzwords. There's some fundamentals that don't change, but uh, there's a lot of new things going on.
There absolutely are. So I've been teaching here for 10 years. I've been teaching at Northeastern. I'm in my sixth year there. And I can tell you that I refresh my curriculum every single year because it's just digital marketing changes that quickly. And you need to be on top of it. I do bring a lot of what I do with Thoughtlight, my agency, into my classroom. And I
Okay.
use a lot of what I do and what other agency owners such as yourself do as case studies. A lot of it is just reports from the field from what I'm doing with my clients. But I also say that teaching keeps me sharp because, how many clients do you work with? We all have an industry specialization, right? So I work, for instance, primarily with mission driven organizations, sustainable brands,
Okay.
people who are doing a lot of pharmaceutical companies are going to have a different experience. So also learn a lot just by doing the research for the courses. I'm teaching a new class here on AI in digital marketing.
Hmm.
It's going really well. We're in our third week and we're talking about, again, content strategy, AI driven content development, content strategy, and then campaign strategy as well, and as well as analytics and how to use predictive models for better analytics, which segues very nicely into my class that I then teach in the spring, which is a dedicated marketing analytics course.
Okay.
And then at Northeastern, I teach an SEO course and some project management courses for people in the masters in communications and digital media. So it changes all the time. It's literally, I will not even release all of the readings for the semester at the beginning of the semester because I say, this is AI. If I give you a reading that you're going to have to read in December now, I don't even know what's going to happen in December. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to post stuff in December now because I'm going to have to take it down because everything's going to be changed by then. So it's an exciting space to be in. I think the lesson for us as marketers, and all of my students are working adults. So I teach practitioners in a graduate certificate and a master's degree program. So everybody's actually out there in the field doing the work themselves. Nothing's really theoretical in my class. And I think that as marketers, the number one thing I try to teach my students and that we all need to know is just constantly be continuously learning because this industry does not let you sleep.
Yeah,
So
that's
stay on
something
top of it. Yeah.
that's something I've always loved about digital marketing is that it's ever changing. And there was when I started a long time ago, I was it was a very steep learning curve, but everyone was on that as well.
Yes.
So because everything was new, and now it's funny to have um, 15 years experience or whatever because it's all still really new. There's a lot of fundamentals that don't change, of course, but um, it's an opportunity for new people to come in to the field and become experts shoulder to shoulder with people who've been there a long time because they're all doing something that was just invented.
Exactly.
Like Facebook ads in 2015, it was only around for a year or two. So everyone was sort of leveled the playing field again. And
It's a great industry to
that's a
come
lot of
into
fun.
as a young person with a lot of bright ideas for sure.
Yeah,
I recommend it highly to people looking for a career change or to people starting out in their careers. Because, again, like you said, it's a pretty level playing field. If you know what you're doing, you can rise to the top.
very cool. Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I know you're
Okay.
in the middle of a conference, so I'll let you get back. And is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I just want to ask people to keep learning, keep doing what they want to do, and know that marketing is a great field to keep learning and keep experimenting in. Want to give a shout out, obviously, to my publishers, Kogan Page and Flat World, and my book, Marketing Metrics by Christina Inge, is available on Amazon. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
where I got mine.
exactly. So it's available on Amazon. Please check it out. And if you drop me a line, you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to send you a signed bookmark if you've bought my book. And other than that, if you go to thoughtlight.net, THOUGHTLIGHT, and I know Dan's going to put the link into the comments, please reach out to us if you are need a full stack marketing help from a friendly agency.
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much, Christina.
Thank
And
you.
enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well, Dan. You have a great day.
Thanks. Bye bye.